Buongiorno everybody, it's rest day time at the Giro D'Italia finally. You might be missing the racing today, but fear not. Despite the washing being in about half an hour before we've got to get it in the dryer, we're here with the Gruppetto. Sean Kelly, Robbie McEwen and Joanna Rowsell will be along to dissect a brilliant first week of the Giro D'Italia. So let's remind you what's happened there and elsewhere in the world of cycling. So this week we've been at Eurosport HQ again, watching things from London to the world. Let's start in Italy before passing through Spain and Hungary as well. Let's pick up where we left off last week, with Tadej Pogačar in pink after his Europa moment on day 2. The third stage was supposed to provide the opening opportunity for the sprinters. That after they'd had to sit tight and suffer during the first 2 days. Tim Merlier did what he always does at the beginning of a Grand Tour: win the opening sprint salvo. He'd had to wait until the latest of Poggy's adventures was over, this time in the company of Geraint Thomas. They'd gate-crashed Mikel Honoré's party, only to leave the host at home. They made the end of the night, but the sprinters would be laughing the loudest when last orders were called. The following day looked like a chance to double up for Merlier, a race over the Ligurian hills down to the coast, then hitting the roads ridden each spring in the Classicissima. This stage would end in Andorra. No, not that one. So no Cipressa or Poggio, but straight after the Capomili. Again, there was a late attack, this time from Filippo Ganna. But the winner of the Mini Sanremo was Big Milan. By this time, the Italian had moved into the points jersey, the Maglia Ciclamino, and he was looking to add to his lead. The riders were heading south, and that's what happened to the breakaway's advantage soon after leaving Genoa, with Alpecin-Koenig keen to put rivals in trouble and give their own sprinter, Caden Groves, a much better shot. That move seemed to backfire, however, as another, fresher, better quality break got away in the final part of the race, able to hold off the advancing peloton who'd left it too late and who weren't always in agreement as to who should chase. The great composer Giacomo Puccini was born in Lucca, and in his city, 100 years after his death, it was operatic from Benjamin Thomas and the break. The Frenchman taking Cofidis' first win of the season, and in what style. The bunch then moved on under the Tuscan sun. Gravel roads were on the menu, and plenty were hungry. A long fight for the breakaway ensued, and eventually Julian Alaphilippe, Pelayo Sanchez and Luc Platt found themselves with a chance to win the stage. And in the case of the latter, perhaps even dream of a pink jersey. The nerves behind kept the gap too low for that. And upon arrival in Brapolano Terme, Alaphilippe sprinted, but nowadays he has competition. And a new name joined the Grand Tour Stage Winners Club. Sanchez, on Giro debut, delivering Spain a first Giro stage win in 5 years. The already tired legs took on the clock on stage 7, the longest TT test of the Tour of Italy in almost a decade, and a great chance for Top Ganna to go box office again. The Italian star duly set the fastest time, but there was no Hollywood ending here. A nasty hill placed at the end of the 40-kilometre route saw 2 top GC riders change the outlook of their races. Both Dani Martinez and Pogačar improved their split times by burning it up the climb. The former was good enough to move above Thomas in the standings to second place. The latter put in another stratospheric performance, not only adding a couple of minutes to his already strong overall lead, but also shocking Ganna as he sat in the hot seat, seemingly, like the rest of us, thinking he was about to win. 12 terrific minutes on the climb from Poggi, and a second stage win was his. Now, if the Maglia Rosa was already a good fit for the leader, then after Prati di Tivo, he might want to book an appointment with a tailor for that perfect fit. A stage finish he knew well from a previous Tirreno Adriatico stage win was upon him, and many wondered if the break would be allowed to go. But after a furious start, the big group up the road was always well controlled by UAE Team Emirates. Balde, Storer and Steinhauser were the GC dangers, but there would be no northern light flash of pink in their direction. Pog kept that pink, the peloton in check as well, and he also kept the late attackers at bay. A back-to-back set of stage wins, meaning the Slovenian was looking untouchable. So to the last stage of the week and a final push before the rest day. Once again, the weather was spectacular, but the start we'd been expecting failed to materialise. Just a couple of riders went up the road on the longest day so far. There'd be spice in the finale, however, fuelled by a chance to upset the sprinters and some typically Neapolitan chaos. Tough, perhaps dangerous roads with the possibility of disaster lurking around most corners. Again, there would be an Alaphilippe attack as some sprinters were going out the back. His small group was passed on the last climb by Jonathan Narvaez, who'd won the opening stage in Turin. And until the final few metres, the Ecuadorian was still ahead here. It took everybody, even the Maglia Rosa, to pull. The Ineos Grenadier had his heart broken by those fast men remaining, and Olav Koy getting there ahead of Milan to win his first Grand Tour stage. A nice moment for Visma Lease Bike, who've had a very tough time of it recently. At the end of the first block of racing, Tadej Pogačar leads Dani Martinez by 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Geraint Thomas is third at just under 3 minutes. Pogačar also leads the mountains classification. Kion Uitebrooks is the best young rider. And the Maglia Ciclamino remains on the back of Milan. Racing continued in Spain after the Vuelta for the women's peloton, and Demi Vollering was at it yet again. In the Basque country, she and her Dutch teammate Misha Bredewold shared the stages between them. The European champion taking the opening couple of days, before Vollering added the Itzulia to her palmarès by bossing the final day to San Sebastian and pedalling away with another GC prize. Elsewhere, Mark Cavendish was one of the stage winners at the Tour of Hungary, with Sam Welsford and Wout Poels the other riders tasting success. The headliner of this particular spring festival, however, was Thibaut Nys, the young Belgian cross star winning 2 stages and taking his first overall success as pro. Another good moment for Lidl Trek, who are having quite the season.
What a week of racing it was, eh? Absolutely incredible. And afterwards, I caught up with Sean Kelly and Robbie McEwen to talk everything Giro D'Italia.
Well, what a first week of the Giro D'Italia it's been, as we've just seen. I'm joined in the Gruppetto by 2 experts and exponents of it. Well, one at either end of his career, maybe, certainly not in the Vuelta A Espana back then. Robbie McEwen knows what it's all about. I'm wearing the Maglia Nera, as I said before. I'm in the last place. Robbie, how have you seen the Giro this week? Because we have witnessed some racing, haven't we?
I'm going to say I've worn lots of different jerseys in Gruppettos over the years, but this Giro, you say that at the end of the first week, that's how tough the Giro is. The first week takes 9 days, but we've seen just a dominant Pogačar just doing what he wants, when he wants, and he just has come to the fore in so many different situations, just showing his versatility and his strength, and I think it's demoralising a few.
It might be. Sean, we've really enjoyed this week, I think, haven't we? Because we've seen a route that we were maybe a bit worried about, but every day's been interesting.
Well, it's been a great Giro, and Giro can be disappointing first week. You can see some days where it's a bit boring, but it hasn't been that at all. It's been really exciting, and as we talked about, Pogačar, of course, dominating, but end of the first week, there's a lot of road to be done, and I know he's in a solid position there, but you just never know what can happen. The Giro can always throw up surprises.
And Sean, apart from Pogačar in the GC, who's caught your eye?
Well, I think the sprinters, looked like maybe Milan was going to dominate, because we see when he won that stage. But it's been a difficult one for the sprinters, and the finals in this race had made it really interesting. Those little climbs in the end, the capos, it's caused problems, and riders, going and looking like they could take stage victories, but just being denied in the very end. So really exciting final of stages, and it's going to rock on.
Robbie, we've just been in the commentary box, us 3 together. One of the most exciting finishes I think we've ever been in the same room for. I think we can expect much more of that. Certainly in your department, in the sprints, I don't think I've ever seen a field like this, not recently anyway.
It's an incredibly strong sprint field, like really a lot of depth. So many sprinters came to the Giro because so many flat stages on offer. But as we have seen, really varied stages. I mean, that's right across the whole 9 opening stages of this race. The sprinters have had their chances, and as Sean said, we thought Milan would dominate. He's been the most consistent, but it's been one apiece for Milan, for Merlier and for Olaf Koy. The other's empty-handed at the moment. But to see the attacking of Jonathan Narvaez got stage 1, almost got stage 9. Pogačar has dominated the others. But in the end, I think it's a pretty good balance because Pogačar has only won 33% of the stages so far on offer.
Only, he says. Week 2, what are we looking forward to the most? Because it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of what kind of stages we have. GC's not on hold yet because straight after the rest day there's an uphill finish as well. We've got a time trial coming up at the end of the week and then the Alps. Lots over 6 days that could still happen.
Well, the days to come in the second week, of course, they're always difficult stages, and we could see surprises. But looking at Pogačar, the way he's riding, the way he's just dominating in those uphill finishes, it's going to be an interesting one if he can last, what he's doing the first week, the second week and the third week. There's going to be more opportunities to breakaways, of course, because now the guys are further down the GC classification. But will they really get greedy and start dominating all the stages from the UAE team? That is a question. We've seen that already. Will it continue that way? But there's a big fight. The podium, second, third, the top 5. It's very, very close, and there's going to be a great battle for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, you talked about being greedy there. Before I let you go off for the rest there, both of you, Robbie first. Are they winning too much? Should they be sharing it around? And again, this isn't necessarily my view because I think I'm on record this week as saying I love the way Pogačar is racing. But there is a valid argument and a question to pose to people. Are they winning too much? Should they giving a bit more of a share of the pie out?
I don't think they've gone overboard just yet. As I said, 33% of the stages have gone to Pogačar, so he's won 3 out of 9. I don't think they're being overly greedy yet. I don't mind the way they're racing. They're racing to win what's on offer. But they haven't won all of them. As time goes on, though, I think as the race settles into the pattern that we're accustomed to, and with the stages coming up next week, with a time trial, an opportunity for Gunnar to win his first race of the season maybe, and his first time trial in a fair while. For the rest, a couple of sprint stages, which I think will be more regular sort of sprints, so that depth of sprint field will get to enjoy a bit more of a straightforward and sort of textbook sprint battles. For the rest, I think Pogačar is going to start letting breakaways stay off the front, and we'll see those intriguing battles and get some 2-for-1s. We get a race for the stage victory off the front and maybe a GC battle behind, which is always good value.
Are they winning too much? Because you and I had this conversation earlier on in the week on commentary, and for anybody who wasn't watching, by the way, Sean, I'm sure many of you know, but those who didn't, used to win quite a lot of bike races, especially in the 1980s when he was the number 1 rider in the world. And you told me on commentary that you were hearing voices in the peloton. You were told directly that you were winning too much. Come on, Kelly, leave something else for the others. What's your view on that? Because you've been in that situation.
Well, I'm happy that Robbie's not a taxman, because 33%, he said, is not a lot. It is a lot. When you look at the first week of racing, when it should be like for more the punchers, more the sprinters, you would expect, to the balance to fall in that direction. But, 3 stages, it's a lot. And we're going into the train as well, where it's going to be more for the GC men if the brakes doesn't succeed. So, yes, it's a one where, they have to back off a bit. And as you say, Rob, during my time when some of the races, when you were winning a lot, some of the teams and the directors say to you, look, you have to leave a bit for the others. And I'm sure that's something is in the mind of a lot of the teams there who are denied maybe because of the way UAE are riding. So, yeah, they'll have to look at that. And I'll not be surprised if it comes to a situation where, you need a little bit of help from the others. But UAE are so strong. They're so dominant, and Pogačar, he's so powerful in the end. Unless you get a stage where it's windy echelons or something like that, there's nowhere they can really get them back for what they're doing and the punishment they're giving them.
Now, earlier in the week, and when she got back from Spain, I was lucky enough to sit down with Joanna Rowsell to talk through the Vuelta Femenina, her view on the Giro, and what was coming up at the track at the Olympic Games.
So here we are back at Eurosport headquarters. Joel's back from Spain. I'm in the middle of the Giro. We've decided to have a chat together and get together. Finally, it's been quite a while, hasn't it? How's it going?
Really good, thank you. I think we were last together at the Track Champions League. Yes. So, yeah, been a while, but busy seasons all round.
It has been. And you've been out of the Vuelta Femenina. First of all, what was it like? It looked brilliant on the telly.
It was a really brilliant week, so they've really sort of stepped it up. It's the first Grand Tour of the women's season. It's 8 days long. The organisation around it was just brilliant. We had 3 mountaintop finishes, and just seeing like the scale of the operation to get everybody up the mountain, the TV trucks, and all the production around that, all the finish gantry, all the barriers, like this, the sheer sort of volume of people involved in it, which is so nice that we've now got really like 3 women's Grand Tours on the calendar properly.
Are we going to see because there's been a lot of talk about how it's cramped and crammed in like last year. Do you think we're going to see these dates stick now because it's the Vuelta first, then we've got the Giro, then the Tour? Do you think that is the order that's set now?
Excellent question. One for much debate. I love how Tour de France Van Vec Swift follows on from the men's Tour de France. I think that works really well. We've currently got the women's Giro during the men's Tour de France. I think that's tricky. I like where the Vuelta is currently. I think it's a nice time of year to be going to Spain, to be racing your bike.
Yes.
After you've had all the spring classics. So although we did have some quite cold days out there, but I like it. It does obviously coincide with the last weekend of the first weekend of the men's Giro, last weekend of the women's Vuelta. But I think that's okay. I think it's sort of gone down quite well, and it's part of a series of races in Spain. So there's one this weekend, there's Burgos next weekend. So there's like sort of 3 big stage races happening in Spain. So for the teams to all go out there, bring all their, their buses and everything, logistically, I think it works quite well as well.
From a selfish point of view, I really enjoyed watching it because for me it was just before the Giro and I had a bit of a free week, so I watched quite a lot of it. Normally with all these clashes at the minute, it's not always easy to watch all the racing, as you were just saying. So I really enjoyed it. I thought Follering was fantastic. Nice to see Vos winning a stage as well. Some real standout performances, weren't there?
Yeah, 2 stage wins for Vos. One of them was in more of a normal bunch sprint, but that day, the first sprint that she won, that the road just kicked up a little bit towards the finish, the sort of road that just takes a little bit of your speed off, and I was thinking this has got Vos written all over it. Thankfully she delivered. The other time she won, it was quite a kick up from 500 metres to go, like I'd say quite a climb, and again it was one of those questions like, is it too hard for Vos? Like, well, I should never ask that question. Of course it's not too hard for Vos. You never ever write her off. So 2 stage wins for her. But what was really interesting was Demi Vollering. So she came into this with no wins so far this season. Huge contrast to her 2023 season. Lots of rumours about transfers and would she be staying at SD Works, and they hadn't renewed her contract, and they had for Kopecky and for Vibes, and that's going to affect a rider. Like that, of course that's going to affect a rider. But then she won the first mountaintop finish. It was a second category climb. She won the stage that day and sort of really put the rumours to bed that she perhaps wasn't on the best form. Like she was on flying form as she took that red jersey on stage 5, I think that was.
Amazing for Demi Vollering, and of course it came off the back of that massive deal she signed with the sportswear giant Nike. It's been a little while, hasn't it, since any bike rider was sponsored by such a big company like that?
Yeah, so our own Danny Rowe back in the day was sponsored by them. But yeah, in terms of women's cycling, that they haven't really invested in the sport, and they're such a huge global brand. So for them to invest in Demi Vollering, as she's obviously really high profile in terms of women's road racing, but that is such a boost for women's cycling, and just sort of globally where that stands in the space of women's sport, that's a huge boost that a brand like that are investing in her.
I wonder if that's going to affect where she goes next season, because it's been one of the bits of gossip all the way through the spring, hasn't it? And you wonder again, has it affected her? Has it affected the team? I mean, it's been a wonderful spring anyway, aside from all that. Lidl Trek versus SD Works, a bit of the others in there as well. We saw big victory for Canyon and Kasia Niewiadoma, didn't we? Vos has been winning the odd race as well. But in terms of where she ends up next season, this is the big story, isn't it, in cycling at the minute? Who is Demi Vollering going to sign for?
That is the big story. There's been a lot of rumours about FDJ. Of course, the only rider to have beaten Vollering last week at the Vuelta Femenina was Evita Music, who rides for that team. So very interesting sort of how these moves take place. Another interesting thing, when she finished the final stage, she lifted her bike across the line. She got off her bike, lifted that up in the air. There's rumours that the bike sponsor Specialized, are staying with her. So to me, that celebration was that what that meant? I don't know. But very interesting to see what happens. And I love that we've got this gossip around the women's side of the sport. You know, people always gossip on the men's side, who's going where, and it really shows the level that we're at in terms of the women's peloton, that people love this gossip. It is big news. Of course it's big news. And, you know, everyone's talking about it, and we'll look forward to seeing where Demi goes.
Yeah, give us all the stories. If you've heard anything, if you're someone at an airport, put it down in the comments below. Where is Demi Follering going next season? We want to know. Moving on, I know you've been watching a little bit of the Giro as well. Trackies are doing well, aren't they?
They are. So I loved Jonathan Milan's stage win. Ganna had attacked. Consoni led him out. So that's 3 of 4 of the Italian men's team pursuit squads. And again, I watched that stage later. I didn't watch it live. Stayed off social media. And I remember thinking when that happened, I wonder if anybody's noticed that's 3 out of 4 of the Italian men's team pursuit squad. And I went on Twitter, and of course everybody had noticed. And Olympic year is slightly different. And of course, a lot of the guys that will be competing on the track in Paris will also be competing on the road. And the Giro seems to be the place to be for the trackies, and Benjamin Thomas as well.
Well, talking of the trackies, the Olympics are coming up. Lots of stories bubbling in around that as well, I imagine.
Yeah, so for men's team pursuit, defending champions are the Italians. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the French do, men and women, with it being home Olympic Games for them. Both teams have been really improving rapidly. And for any track fans, you'll have heard of Katie Archibald, but if you hadn't been following... Just a bit. If you haven't been paying quite as close attention, the final Nations Cup, which was the final qualifying event for Paris, was in April, and she took 3 gold medals there out in Canada. So potential, we're waiting to hear on selection, but potentially 3 events in Paris for her. Very exciting.
Well, lots coming up at the Olympics. And this is a special time, isn't it? You've been at a home Olympics. You mentioned the French athletes. What are we now? Just getting there. This is May. End of July, start of August. What's the feeling 2 or 3 months before? There must be sort of both in training and out of training, because you start to hear and see the people get excited. What is the feeling? Is there pressure? Is it excitement? Is it both?
A bit of both. It will be on everybody's radar. Because it only comes around once every 4 years. I know we've got a 3-year cycle because of COVID, but normally it's so rare. And then having a home games for the French riders, that will probably never happen again in their careers. So it is huge. It does change things. I mean, for the better. It's a good thing. Pressure is a privilege. It's a really exciting, nice thing to have on the horizon. But I think it will be in the back of a lot of riders' minds. I'm in this bike race and I want to win this bike race now. But this is part of my process for the summer. So yeah, a mix of mentality, but definitely a good one.
Where can we hear you next then, Jo?
I will be here for Vuelta a Burgos, so that is my next event. So continuing commentating in Spain. The Women's World Tour stays in Spain for the 3rd stage race in May. So very, very busy month of May in Spain for the Women's World Tour peloton. Then got the Women's Tour of Britain, which is coming up in June, early June. So back on the calendar now with that.
Well, it'd be great to hear you again. Cannot wait to listen in to the Vuelta a Burgos next week. I hope you'll be watching the Giro as well. Any predictions?
It's hard to see past the eventual winner now. But then, last year everything changed, didn't it? So right up until that final time trial. So it's a 3-week race. We'll see.
There's danger around every corner in the Giro. We know that. Well, I cannot wait to catch up with you again. Come back to the Gruppetto in a month or 2.
Yep.
I want to know a bit more about how those Olympic hopes are going, how France are looking, how the British team's looking as well.
Yep.
And we'll reconvene soon. Thanks, Jo. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
So lucky to have such great presence in the Giro D'Italia. Grand Tour winners, Olympic gold medalists, green jersey winners. We've been spoiled this week, haven't we? There's much more to come and to spoil you this week on Eurosport Discovery Plus as well. If you're watching in the US, you can also watch the Giro D'Italia streaming on Max. We start again on Tuesday, an uphill finish. Then we go to a couple of flat stages on the way. You've got to give the sprinters something. However, we know that the breakaways will be hard fought at this Giro as well. We then go to a time trial at the weekend, and then the mighty mountains will continue to make their decision and be the judge, jury, maybe even executioner at this stage on some GC challenges. There's plenty to come at the Giro. We head up into the mighty mountains, of course, and a reminder, it is live and on demand on Eurosport Discovery Plus, and if you're in the US, on Max. I'll be back again with a Gruppetto next week. Until then, though, keep following us on @Eurosport Cycling YouTube channel. We're on Instagram and TikTok as well. And let us know below in the comments what you think of the show, who you'd like to see, and your predictions for this week's Giro d'Italia stages. For now, from me and all the team, enjoy your rest day. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.